Hi everyone, thank you so much for taking the time to click onto this video. I'm Miss Webster, I'm Year 1 teacher and also Phonics lead here at Hillmorton, and I'm going to just be giving you sort of a general overview about our phonics teaching and how we support children's early reading here at Hillmorton Primary. So let's start with the phonics. We've been teaching phonics here for many years, but over the last sort of 12 months or so, we've altered it ever so slightly. We're now using a new program called Little Wandle Letters and Sounds Revised. It is very similar to what we were doing before, for those of you who may have had children that have previously come through the school, but it's just sort of a more updated way with new resources, new books, for us to use. So us as staff across the whole school have had training on this over the last 12 months. We started it a little bit last year, but we're ready to really push forward for it this year, starting right from September. And that's the program that we're going to be using to teach early reading and spelling. So phonics is making connections between the sounds of our spoken words and the letters that are used to write them down. Put very simply, it's the sounds that we make with our mouth, the sounds that we make when we're reading, knowing what that actually equates to as a letter, how we write that down or how we would recognise it. There's lots of quite tricky terminology that comes along with phonics. You may well have heard your children using some of these words at home already: phoneme, digraph, grapheme, split vowel digraph. Lots of these things we teach to the children because that is the correct name for them, but can be a little bit overwhelming if you're not familiar with phonics. But don't worry, we teach them all that in school, and if I just flick forward, I'm going to signpost you to the Little Wandle website. There's an excellent area on there for parents which contains loads of videos. As you can see here, these are videos of the sounds that are taught and the correct way to pronunciate them. There's also videos there sort of giving you information about the different terminology, what the lessons look like, things like that. So I would really advise, if you get a few minutes, to have a look at that website. I think it's really useful to kind of see it in action, and will be really beneficial for you supporting your child at home. So my main focus for today is all about reading. I am going to come back to phonics. You'll see another video from me another time, more in depth about the phonics, but for today I really wanted to focus on the reading. So how do we teach reading at Hillmorton? So we teach it by two ways. We teach it in our phonics lessons, which are done daily across reception and Year 1, and moving into Year 2. We do phonics every day for 20 minutes. But we also teach reading using actual books, and the pictures you can see on screen are examples of some of our new and wonderful books. We've spent lots of money, again, over the last few months, sort of updating our home readers. So we've got lots of really lovely books to be using in school and at home. So we have 3 practice reading sessions a week, which means that children will read the same book 3 times in school. They're timetabled in, they're led by trained teachers or teaching assistants. It might not be the teacher or teaching assistant from your child's class, because we're borrowing staff from perhaps the class next door or other classrooms, to make sure that all children can have those reading sessions at the same time. But they're in small groups, and as I say, those reading sessions are going to take place 3 times a week, sort of with a different focus on each, but making sure the children are really familiar with their focus book. We use assessments to match your child to the right level of book. So as part of our phonics teaching, half-termly, we will assess your child to see what it is that they've learned, where they've got any gaps, and then use that information to inform us what sort of book level it is that they need to be on. It's really important, of course, that your child reads a book at the right level. And it can be quite difficult to know what the right level is, so we would say that if your child should know all the sounds and tricky words in their phonics book well, they should be really confident with those. They should be able to read many of those words without having to stop and sound out. So if they saw the word cat, they wouldn't necessarily have to stop and sound out every k at all the time. They'd start to become more familiar and recognise that as a word. But obviously there will be words that trip them up, but we say sort of about 5% of the book should be when they stop to sound out or they're not sure. by the time it comes to home to you, because like we say, they're going to be reading them 3 times with us in school, so they should be really familiar with those books. Which is where you come in, reading at home. So the most important thing that you can do with your child at home is to read. Reading a book and chatting about a book has a really positive impact a year later on in a children's ability to understand words and sentences, their range of vocabulary that they understand and that they're able to use, developing their comprehension skills, and the amount of books and things that children are exposed to is a real predictor of their reading ability a few years later. So it is so important. Both reading and listening to the books are really essential. So this is sort of our plan from Hillmorton. So you'll see in the middle, that's us. So on the left hand side, you've got just the child, and that's what we're going to call a phonics book. So that phonics book, A Job for the Dog, you can see it's got a little label on it at the bottom. It says Phase 3, Set 1. So those books are organised into the different phases which relates to the phonics that they've learnt, and then the sets are sort of the order that they'll go in. That is a phonics book, so that's the kind of book that your child will have been practicing at school with a grown-up 3 times already. That book will then be coming home to practice at home too, so it'll be really familiar to them by the time it gets home to you. But they'll also have another book, so you can see there the Gruffalo. The label on that one looks slightly different. It still says Phase 3 Set 1 because it aligns with where they are with their phonics book, but it's a sharing book. And this is a book for you to read to them at home. It's a book for them to enjoy and to really promote that love of reading, which we all know is so vital. So if I go back quickly to just talking about the phonics books, as we said, their children should be able to read that book without your help. That if they can't read a word, just read it to them. But talk about the book and celebrate it with them. They'll be so excited to bring that book home to share with you. They've practiced it at school, and they will just be so excited to be able to come home and, you know, show off their reading skills and show you what they can do. So that's a really exciting one. And then we have the phonics books, like I say, will go home after the 3 reading sessions. So we're planning on sending those home on a Wednesday after it's been read 3 times. And then that book must be returned to school by the following Monday so that those same books can go out to another group. Like I say, we've spent lots and lots of money on these new books over the last few months, and we don't have, you know, an endless amount of them. So if it's really is important that when those books come home, they do come back. We'll be logging them and checking them in and out, so we can sort of keep an eye on that. But that's really important so that the next child, the next group, will be able to use those books. So like I say, we're sending them out on a Wednesday and asking them for them back on the Monday. And then the sharing book, so the Gruffalo example that I gave you earlier, we've got loads of wonderful books in school that we really want you to enjoy and share with your child. I know you probably have lots of lovely books at home as well, which is brilliant, but weekly your child will get to bring home another book. It could be fiction, it could be non-fiction, it could be poetry, lots of different types of books, and that's a book for you to read to them. That's, you know, that's not for them to read, it's a book for you to enjoy together, to promote that sort of pleasure for reading, where you can use different voices, you can talk about the language, you can predict what might happen, you can describe things that you see, you can talk about the facts. Really is a book to sort of delve deep into and enjoy together, whereas the phonics book is a book for your child to read to you. And then finally is about recording reading at home. We really do want to promote reading at home and want to encourage children to do so. In your school link book, you'll see the page is sort of near the beginning. There's a section that says My Reading Record. You can see an example page for you there. Please do write down when your child has read the phonics book to you, so you can see there A Job for the Dog, and just a short little comment just to sort of give us an indication of how they got on. But also do note down when you've read that sharing book together. Both books are equally as important. Merits will be given out for any time that you read the phonics book or the sharing book at home. So you can see here this child has took home A Job for the Dog and the Gruffalo, and they've read them a total of 6 times, so they've had 6 merits there. That's the little green stamp. The class TA will be giving out merits for reading. They'll be looking in the link books at least once a week for that, and then stamping to show that they've acknowledged it, and then merits will be uploaded straight onto Class Dojo. And I think that's about everything. Like I say, please just remember to send the books back to school every Monday, as the next group of children will need them. And thank you so much for taking the time to sort of listen in and find out more about our reading. If you do have any more questions about anything or how it works, please do get in touch. We're more than happy to help. But I hope you really enjoy these reading books coming home. I think you really will, because they're really lovely books, and we look forward to hearing your feedback. So thanks again, and I'm sure I'll see you soon. Thanks, bye.